Hello. In this program, I want to show you demonstration on the threats and attacks. Okay, my name is Anand. Yeah, so this is a very important module, especially if you are preparing for interviews or maybe for any cybersecurity examination point of view. Because here you'll be seeing a lot of terminology, which is very important. Yeah, so let me quickly proceed to yeah. The objectives is like identify and understand the threats and attacks which will be focusing and with a good amount of terminology. And also we will be describing about the most commonly used attacks also which are posed along with the threats. Okay. So here the first one which we need to understand in this is the vulnerability. Vulnerability in one line it is weakness. Threat is a form of, the objects people pose to potential danger to an asset via an attacks. Threat agent, specific object, person who poses such as danger by carrying out an attack. So here we can consider like a DDoS is a distributed, denial of service attack. Okay, where multiple people, multiple vectors come across to a single, what we call as the victim, and then the availability of the system is gone. The risk, probability that is something damage to happen, something bad to happen, sometimes expected to an organization or an individual also. So unlike vulnerability, so vulnerability is only a weakness. Basically, here risk is like exploits. Like risk is a web service running on a server which may have a vulnerability, but if it is not connected to a network, risk is zero. There is no attacks can happen. Exposure, a successful attack. Vector, how the attack was carried out. Example, a malicious email attachment. Malware, it's called as a malicious code, any potential damage which can cause, okay, like virus, mostly like Trojan horse, bots, okay, backdoors, spyware, worms, adware, etc. So these all are considered as malwares, anything which cause harm to the system or to the software, which functions, partially functions, or doesn't functions at all when the functionality is reduced. Okay, the disclosure, responsible, uh, full, partial, none, delayed, etc. Authentication, determining the identity of the person, computer or service on a computer. Authorization, because these are the important points whenever you are following the security practices. Determining whether an entity has access to the object. It can be a program or a person or it can be whatever it is. Okay, incident is a happening basically, like vary an attack, all attacks using vulnerability, etc. Anything resulting in service degradation means it can reduce the service or completely unavailable the service. So it's not considered as problem management, it is called as an incident. So incident is a short happening, so the services needs to be restored at the earliest. Here the objective is this. Whereas in problem management we will be finding out the root cause. Threats, okay, an object, a person or entity that represents a constant danger to us. Management must be informed of different threats facing the organization. What is needed immediately when you identify a threat means you need to inform. By examining each threat category, management effectively protects information through policies. So if they identify, then what will they do? They'll create a policy and then they will educate the all the employees so that the threats can be minimized. And also a kind of patch or a kind of some controls where they see that the threats are not available, are not there in the organization. So you can see that CSI definitely during a survey it has found that most of the organizations reported that breaches, about 79% of organizations reported cybersecurity breaches. There can be various type of, but 79% comes under cybersecurity. More than three-fourths. More than half are reported for financial losses of more than, we can see it is increasing from time to time. So that is the reason we always go and identify all the threats and then see what best can be done. And it has to be taken a survey or it can needs to be audited periodically. Okay. So yeah, so the threats to information security we have listed out the top. I mean, many of the things which are there, like it can be like acts of human error or compromise of intellectual property, deliberate acts of like espionage or trespass, and you can see many more deliberate act of information extortion. The examples also are given. Examples also are given. Deliberate acts of sabotage of or vandalism, deliberate acts of theft, deliberate software attacks, virus worms. This is more important for our area. Macros or denial of service attacks, force of nature. It can be fire, flood, earthquake, and lightning. Yeah, technical hardware failures. It happens, and so that we plan for redundancy if the service needed. No downtime. You can even see the technical software failures or errors, bugs, or maybe code problems across unknown loopholes, and the technological obsolescence. So some people doesn't know that the software is outdated, but still use. So that is a kind of risk basically to the organization because there are no security updates which are coming, which are being supported. So the next one is, like you can say human error or failures. So what happens is that if we don't find out that there are possibilities that many times human errors it can be overlooked or inexperience or improper training or assumptions. We assume, this can happen like this only, that cannot happen or somewhat like that. So employees are the greatest threats to an organizational data. So basically, it can be based on ignorance or it can be improper training. So they may give if they are not properly thinking, or it can be assumptions. Act of human error or failure. Employee mistakes can be easily led to revelation of classified data, entry of erroneous data, accidental data deletion or modification, data storage in unprotected areas, failures to protection information, all are self-explanatory. So many of these threats can be prevented with controls. Then the insider threat. Okay, so here is say pictorial representation. Who is the biggest threat? So, like, we may think that external people only are the threats for an organization. So, you can see a burglar coming and stealing inside the organization or a house. That is one type of attack. The other thing, like amateur hacker, it can be improper training or improper way of handling things, can also lead to hacking. The things can go out beyond his control. So there can be other type like accidentally deleting one copy of the critical report. So they might not know that this is always a big risk to, threat to the organization. Okay, this is one more. I think you can highlight this shoulder surfing. So some people may deliberately come and watch something from behind. I can show you pictorially, like some people watching behind you, shoulder surfing, and it can be an ATM box or it can be even the password screening from behind. Whenever you are typing passwords, they deliberately watch with one eye and then later on they will try. So, or even a secret cameras or something like that, they place it like the spying across from long distance with devices, etc. So these all are considered as shoulder surfing. This is out of which this ATM is most dangerous. They try to get the PIN numbers and try to again hack or remove and try to do the damages. The deliberate act of theft. So illegal taking of another physical, electronic, or intellectual property. Physical theft is controlled relatively easily. Electronic theft is more complex problem. Evidence of crime is not readily apparent. Okay, so this is software attacks. Malicious software designed to damage, destroy, or deny service to target systems. This includes virus worms. Uh, Both of them are potentially, damage. Virus is nothing but which is spreading across. It is a software, okay, signature which spreads across from one system to one network, or it's like that. Whereas your Trojan horse is basically like a backdoor virus replicates, a Trojan horse basically opens a port and it informs the hacker. So both of them are dangerous. Logic bombs, backdoors, denial of service attacks are all software attacks. You can see a Trojan horse, how this attack happens in a pictorial way. So the Trojan horse basically from any malicious websites or emails or free kind of softwares, etc. It's a short program which gets landed inside your system. So it gets activated once you execute the program or the attachment. So once it is attached, a backdoor is opened. Backdoor is opened, which when this is also called as a payload, because that is the Trojan which comes automatically inside your system in order to trap you and gain the information to the hacker. So this is called as a payload. And that hacker, once he gets the access to your system, he monitors and he also installs some kind of what we call as Trojans, and he retains the connection to his level and tries to benefit as part of the hacker. Forces of nature. Forces of nature are among the most dangerous threats, disrupt not only the individual lives, but also storage, transmission, and use of information. Organizations must implement controls to limit damage and prepare contingency plans for continued operations. Okay. Deviations in quality of service include situations where products or services not delivered as expected. Information system depends on many interdependent subgroups. Yeah, this is again a very important slide. Attacks. What is an attack? Act or action that exploits vulnerability. So in a control system. So it is, if I mean, like you are just accomplished by a threat agent which damages. Here the keyword is damage or steals organizational information. Okay. So there are various type of attack vectors. So I'm giving some important ones. Spear phishing. So here you can see the spear phishing attack. What is the main advantage of this? They gain the confidential information. I mean, they specifically target to some specific people, and then they try to inform. Here, target is mostly towards the board members or the CEO or the top brass in an organization, so that they gain the key important information. This is called as a spear phishing attack. And again, hoax. Hoax means attacker posts a link to fake and like any kind of software which is their hoax. They try to give some kind of which has not yet happened. So a kind of hoax. So a broad set of victims, so that the employees or the end users get panic and then they think it is real, but it's not. It's not. Okay. So whaling is nothing but more than phishing or spear phishing, but for big users. Okay, instead of sending out to whom it may concern message to thousands of users, the whaler identifies one person. Okay, it's a little bit different than spear phishing, but whom they can gain data what they want. Usually a manager or an owner or even at a higher level. Okay, so now the word spam has found its the way in the form of unwanted messages beyond email. So spams we often see in the emails. So asking some kind of information, you want lottery or something like that. So be careful, change your password, that kind of thing. And acronyms are SPIM. SPIM is nothing but spamming or instant messaging through SMS. Okay, so which is again very popular as currently. And also SPIT, SPIT, spam over internet telephony. Okay, across VoIP, etc. We call this as SPIM and SPIT. And the other things like attacks, you can see about phishing, farming, and wishing. Phishing is basically like you are creating a fake, what we call as URLs, and attacker basically mass mails this product to the parties that have already opted out receiving advertisements. So they think that this phishing basically is a genuine program, and then they reveal the things from the recipients. So the attacker gains the information using inappropriate links which are conveyed. Farming is again, you can see a fraudulent sites which are there. You may think that it looks exactly the same, a legitimate site, but it's not. So recent mails come across, but it with help of phishing, it goes into a fake websites. This is called as farming. And you see wishing attacker collects credit card details. Okay, so this is again another kind of dangerous attack. Okay, you can see various type of which we already discussed currently. Some of them, IP scan, web browsing, virus, unprotected shares, mass mail, and of course SNMP is a protocol which is used for collecting the information across the network, which is port number 161, network management protocol. Okay, the malicious code. What is a malicious code? Includes execution, which we already discussed about this malicious code and backdoor. In these attacks, you can see the password crack, brute force, and dictionary. These are the common type of attacks which people do apart from guessing. In password crack, they calculate, attempting to reverse to calculate a password. In brute force, trying every possible combination of options of a password. Dictionary attack, we have a specific dictionary. From there, basically, the users try to what we call as get the hash functions or something like that, and then they search from the dictionary, and then they get the password information. Denial of service and distributed denial of service is again another type of attack. They send large number of connection information. It can be a ping or it can be something like that, which targets cannot handle, which when it comes all of a sudden at the same time, it cannot handle, and then the system may go for a crash, or the performance may reduce, I mean, it is because of huge requests to be handled. Distributed denial of service is no different than DOS. Basically, like it comes from different elements from the attack vectors to a single location. I mean, to a single website or a single server. Like you can see this. This is a denial of service. The hacker basically, he floods. It's called as a flood. There are various type of DOS attacks. Within that, the common one is the SYN flooding. So he basically creates a SYN kind of which is a flood, and then the server is basically cannot handle all the things. And here you can even think about some zombies. Zombies is basically an unterminated process, which cannot be terminated. It tries to create on its own. I mean, bots. Okay, so this cannot be terminated. So this reduces the functionality of the system by consuming the resources. Yeah, spoofing, which we discussed earlier. Again, man in the middle attacks, monitors network packets, modified them and inserts them back to the, which is also called as, man in the middle. In between, he'll come and and then he will try to change interception. Like he'll intercept the basic thing, the request which has been created by the victim, and then he creates his own the data, and then he returns back to the victim. So this is man in the middle attack, which is very risky. So you can see this how the spoofing comes across. The IP is changed. You can see IP source and IP destination remain same, but it gives a different IP address, which is again which is called as IP spoofing. Even today, MAC spoofing is also there, where they create a dummy MAC, which is not at all been assigned to that particular system. So this IP and MAC spoofing are very much into basically changing their originality. Is called as spoofing. So this is how the man in the middle attack, which interception happens. Like company A attempts to establish to company B, he wants to take a connection from here. In between, the person is there, hacker intercepts. Basically, the keyword is interception, and poses as company B. He will take the control in between these two, what needs to be happened, and in this way, both way the things gets compromised. Hacker benefits. Email bombing, also like we call as a DOS attack, routes to a large quantities of email. Sniffers. So the kind of sniffing means a program like taking the packet headers or something like that, which a common sniffer, which is a Wireshark, where you can or TCP dump or something like that. You can, but those things are basically to analyze the protocols, network protocols. But here the hacker, he sniffs the data, means it can be used for legitimate purpose or for stealing the information from the network. Social engineering, which is again a common attack, like people behave with you as if they are your friends or your relatives or something like that, and then they gain information. So there are various type of social engineering attacks also. So the credentials are unknown to them. So one of the attacks, even phishing also comes as a social engineering part. So you will be thinking that it is a real site, and we land up into attacks. Okay. So buffer overflow, timing attack, side channel attacks. These are again various type of attacks which can be continued. Okay, threats and attacks. This is what which we have learned in this particular one. Remember, this terminology is very, I mean, so very much required when you are approaching the interviews. Okay, thank you.